Hello, everybody. Like we do every Friday night, we are talking about Charlotte FC here on WCNC Plus on the pitch. It's been a bit of a rough go for the club across all competitions. 3 straight losses, 2 in the league, 1 in the U.S. Open Cup to arch rival Atlanta United at the Sportsplex in Matthews. And we're lucky to talk about it today with Kevin Egan, studio host MLS on Apple TV, host MLS 360. You can find him on X at Kev_Egan. Kev, what are you thinking about the vibes going around with Charlotte FC the last week or so?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a slump, hasn't it? 3 straight losses in all competitions, and it's been at a weird time, and it's not going to get any easier either with New England on the horizon this weekend. New England, the side that have looked absolutely brilliant on home soil, and on their travels against Miami, they look good too. But for Charlotte, I think there's still some receipts from last year that this team is figuring out right now, and Adilson Malanda being gone is a big one. Tim Ream out at the moment is a big one. Now, Morrison Adjuman stepping in, he's been great scoring goals up one end, but this team has been shipping goals for fun. So finding that solidity in the defence again. Kalina has been excellent for the most part of this year, but at times looked a little bit dodgy in the last few games that he's played in. So figuring out how to keep those clean sheets once more, and hopefully this team starts to score more goals, because beyond Pep Biel at this moment in time, I think there's a lot of Charlotte players really struggling for ingenuity in a finishing touch.
All right, obviously the 2 league losses are a bummer, but then, it's like, okay, we're still in this U.S. Open Cup, and we have a home match at our smaller venue. Our fans love to pack it. Atlanta United's here, and they fall flat. 2-0, nary a chance, and maybe a few in the second half, but really not enough to mount any sort of meaningful comeback. And many kind of after Dean Smith for his approach to that competition. Did you see any issue with the club he put out there? To me, I mean, you've got a DP and Abada out there. They had the pieces, I think, by and large, to win that match, but now people kind of coming down on Dean for his starting 11 and substitutes.
It's tough. I see both sides. I see it from the Charlotte fan base. You call Abada a DP. He is on paper, but he doesn't play like a DP. And in Major League Soccer, you need your designated players to go above and beyond, to really be that star within your group. And Atlanta have not had those guys either, but the one guy they've had is Alexei Miranchuk. And Miranchuk stood on his head again. He's been excellent in the month of April. And Atlanta fans have been celebrating him, but in Latte Latte and in Almiron, they certainly haven't hit home. And in Lil Abada, for Charlotte, he hasn't delivered for the crown. It's as simple as that. His performance is nowhere near good enough when you compare him to what Wilfred Zaha does on his day, and certainly what Pep Biel is doing as well within this group. It's a curious one, I think, because Abada's time, I think, come the summer transfer window, could be coming to an end. But that team was good enough to get a win in Charlotte against Atlanta United, and they didn't produce. And the lack of ingenuity is something that surprises me a little bit, because I thought with Luca de la Torre in midfield, he'd be that perfect foil for Ashley Westwood. Ashley Westwood could be that leader, that anchor in the midfield, taking the ball from the defence and spraying it forward. And I thought that Luca de la Torre would be the one meandering through the midfield and finding that winger or that final pass for Toklamadi. And it just hasn't worked out so far this year. Charlotte definitely have issues that they need to figure out come the World Cup break.
When you guys discuss Charlotte on MLS 360, what's kind of the tenor been lately on the desk and among yourself and the analysts about, what's going on and what could potentially spark things again for this club?
It's funny because there's so many times you think something about Charlotte and you think you form an opinion, and then all of a sudden at the weekend they could go out in front of the bank and a brilliant crowd, and then get a 2-0 win, clean sheet, score goals, and you're left scratching your head once more. But I think ultimately with Charlotte, more than anything, I think it goes to show you the importance of the individuals at times, which isn't always a great thing. But Christian Kalina is so important. Further forward, Pep Biel, when he went out last year, you remember midsummer when Pep Biel went out injured, you could really feel that lack of ingenuity and creative spark gone from this team. And I think when Wilfred Zaha is missing, I think you really, really miss him. And Zaha has been someone that's come in for criticism from Charlotte fans, but the reality is he's a double-digit sort of guy in both goals and assists. And he's one of the most fouled players in world football. He's the most fouled player in Premier League history, most fouled player in Major League Soccer last year. So he naturally creates chances when he's brought down and Pep Biel's over the ball. good things come for Charlotte. So I think the individuals, but now it needs to be more about the collective. And I think other players, and I mentioned Luca de la Torre, need to step up in these moments and really produce for the team.
Always interesting, the Zaha discourse here in Charlotte. You mentioned, I mean, Fowl suffered. He's double his next teammate as far as Charlotte goes. So it has continued. Do you think he'll ever make that adjustment in this league? Do you think this is a player that Charlotte could be moving on from this summer? I mean, there have been kind of whispers about that, some interesting things said from management, from Zaha, and social media posts as well. I mean, 4 assists, tied for the team lead, got 2 goals this year, had a pretty productive season last year. But do you think this is a player they'll have throughout the rest of the season?
It kind of bothers me a little bit when we talk about Wilfried Zaha, because there's a player in Lille Abada who's a designated player who's producing nowhere near the numbers or nowhere near the emotion. And this is a sport that fans, feed off emotion. They want to see how passionate a player can be for playing for the club. And Wilfried Zaha, while he gets involved in things he shouldn't get involved in at times, and while some of the antics feel needless at times, he still leaves it all out there, and there's no question about that. He may not make the right decision each and every time, but he has the ability to unlock a defence, and he absolutely attracts attention. So I thought when Wilfried Zaha came in that this is going to mean that Lille Abada, or Kerwin Vargas for that matter, are looking at double-digit goals. They're looking as the type of players, because Wilfried Zaha is going to attract so much attention on one side, with Pep Biel pulling the strings as well, that it's going to leave openings on the opposite flank. And those guys have not capitalised on that moment. I think, if anything, you try and keep Wilfried Zaha and you add a real quality piece on the other flank that can help Toklamati, that can help Pep Biel. And maybe you go after an alternative number 9 as well. Toklamati's been very good, but the reality is he's wearing the number 9, and that comes with a burden, that comes with real responsibility, and he's still a kid. So is he at that level to lead the line for the crown? There's, Archie Goodwin's another option for Charlotte, but maybe there's someone out there in the summer window that Charlotte can look at to really add more competition up front.
All right, can Charlotte FC find their rhythm at New England? One more segment with Kevin Egan when we come back. All right, welcome back to Charlotte FC Talk here on WCNC Plus on the Pitch. Special guest tonight, Kevin Egan from MLS 360, studio host on MLS on Apple TV. Kevin, New England Revolution, sometimes this club has been a thorn in Charlotte's side, but a real chance to, spark a potential run here, grab their second road victory of the season. Haven't had a lot of opportunities, but how do you see this matchup this weekend?
It's really difficult. I'm not going to lie to you, because New England on home soil of late have been excellent, and they go to Miami, they pick up a point. There just seems to be a real shift around the mentality of the Revs. Under Caleb Porter, things never seem to settle, and he brought in his own roster. He did a complete overhaul of the roster heading into last year, and it never worked out for Caleb Porter, a man that's won MLS Cups with different clubs. Now you see Marko Mitrovic at the club, and what you've seen is culture. You've seen a great team camaraderie. You've seen him turn to youth and players that he's coached at the US U20 level, players that he brought to the Olympics. Marko Mitrovic is a wonderful human being. And with that, you see Carlos Hill, a captain of the club that wears the number 10, that's talking now like the Revs are the best club he's ever played for. They're the most important club in my life, he said. And the vibes all around at New England are absolutely off the charts. They're excellent right now. So this is a really, really tough time for Charlotte to go there. And if ever there was a time for Charlotte to really, rediscover who they are and figure out how you maintain a defensive block that is ridiculously tough to break down, and then through your key wingers in the team and your youthful strikers, you hit this team in the counter-attack, or you try and score on set pieces. But ultimately, you have to go there and you have to really try and frustrate the Revs, because they've had it all their own way on home soil lately.
Listen, 2 straight playoff appearances for Dean Smith. By no means am I suggesting that there's a warm seat here in Charlotte for their manager. You talk about culture and camaraderie. He had brought that here. And this is just I know we're talking about them like it's, they're bottom of the East. They're still 5th with plenty of time to go. But how pivotal of a time is this? Like, let's say before World Cup for Charlotte FC to get this going. I mean, we had the long losing streak last year. They dug themselves out of it with a magnificent win streak. How pivotal is this time for the Dean Smith era, do you think, at all?
I think that, out of all the teams in Major League Soccer, not too many come into 2026 as comfortable within their own skin as Charlotte. Now, that can come as a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is they're all familiar with themselves. There wasn't much of a roster turnover. And the bad thing is that sometimes a little bit of complacency can set in, or sometimes certain guys become key starters and others don't really get as much of a chance. And I think you've seen that when key pieces have gone out this year, the others haven't quite stepped up as much. Now, in saying that, it wasn't long ago that Charlotte were scoring 6 goals against Red Bull New York. You know, it wasn't long ago before we saw those goals fall in, and everybody's talking about Charlotte as maybe the best team in the East, or certainly challenging to be. The reality is this: looking at the squad on paper, the experience of Dean Smith, Charlotte should be aiming for a top 4 place, and I still think that is the case. Home field advantage, just like they achieved last year. I think that's a wonderful achievement if they can go and get it. And here's the other reality in all of this: is Major League Soccer, like leagues over here in the United States, it's all about when you hit form, and you have to hit form at the right time. So it's important for Charlotte to rediscover their mojo before the World Cup break. But I think it's absolutely pivotal to get the summer transfer window right, and to make sure that when Charlotte turn the bend toward that final sprint of the season, that they become an absolute force at the bank once more, and make sure you get that home field advantage in the playoffs.
Yeah, certainly would love that momentum post-World Cup too, leading into the MLS All-Star Game and all those festivities here in Charlotte. Couple more things, Kevin, and I'll let you go. That summer transfer window, you know, you talk about opposite flank of Zaha, back line. I mean, is this team in a position to possibly address both in a significant way to potentially make a run after that window?
Yeah, you know, in so many different areas, Charlotte are in a wonderful position. I think that in Christian Kalina, you have the best goalkeeper in the league. And I don't say that lightly. There's a lot of good goalkeepers in the league, like Matt Freese. You see, you're going up against Matt Turner at the weekend, Charlotte, and he's been in excellent form for the Revs, trying to get that #1 spot for the US. But in Christian Kalina, you've got an absolute stud, coached by Aaron Hyde. Aaron Hyde is a tremendous goalkeeping coach and a real underrated star here in Major League Soccer. Someone who coached at Atlanta United and won a championship with Tata Martino, got recruited to coach for the US men's national team and coached at a World Cup. And now he's at Charlotte as the goalkeeping coach, leading the way. And it's no surprise to me that with him, Christian Kalina went on to win Goalkeeper of the Year. And you know, Tyler Miller in behind, you've got options. Further forward in midfield, I think Charlotte find themselves in a great position, a better position than most, with Ashley Westwood, a star and an absolute warrior and a captain and leader. And Bronico's a great player. De La Torre has more to offer. So there's an awful lot there. It's for me that Lil Abada, Kerwin Vargas position could be stronger. Up front, I still think Goodwin and Toklamadi need competition, and I would absolutely be adding a centre-back. And I know there's more to come from Henry Kessler, from Andrew Privet, Morrison Adjuman stepping in too, but I just feel that Tim Ream's had some injuries of late. Tim Ream's not getting any younger as he edges closer to 40 and is set to play at a World Cup. There'll be tired legs afterwards. So a summer window, looking at a winger, a striker, and a centre-back would be what I'd have on the menu right now if I was going in.
All right, real quick before I let you go, Kevin, you know, those of us here at Charlotte will have to make the trek down to Atlanta for any World Cup action, but we will see the U.S. men's national team in Charlotte for, I think, maybe the final tune-up before World Cup competition begins. What do you make of the U.S. men's national team as they enter this phase of the pre-World Cup and the World Cup? I know there's a lot of questions. You could probably take this in a lot of different directions.
Where do you want to go? There's more questions than answers right now, and that's the reality. But here's the thing. When the World Cup kicks off and the U.S. play in the group, a group that they can win, but I honestly believe it's a much trickier group than many people are saying. People are talking about the U.S. absolutely top in the group. It's not going to be easy. Turkey are a very good side. Paraguay and Australia will absolutely cause the US problems. The US are no great shakes right now, but with a bit of momentum on home soil, this team could start to gather momentum, and that could really, that kind of sensation around the country could compound throughout the tournament. And I just, you could have a Flo Balogun, for example, hit form at the right time, and anything can happen. There's been countless examples of this. Even look at Czechia that have qualified for the World Cup, heading into the playoffs for the World Cup. Czechia didn't have a coach. They had all sorts of problems with Thomas Souček. Their captain wasn't featured in the team, and everybody from Czechia was saying, we're done. And they get a bit of momentum, something happens in a game, and that could absolutely happen in the US. I think it's just really important that everybody gets behind this team, shows their support, quits the division, and let's see if the US can actually make a run here, because this has been the golden era for US soccer, apparently, for quite some time, and it hasn't resulted in big wins for the US men's national team. Maybe this is the time.
Kevin, can we check out Irish Exit down in Atlanta yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, we'll be open. The Irish Exit is a bar and restaurant I'm opening up with a great group of people. and it's opening, I would say, June 7th or June 8th right now. That's the target. We're going to have the Atlanta FIFA Fan Fest June 11th for opening night, which I'll be hosting as well, and then obviously the fans will be right by the stadium, so we need to be open by June 11th. And then it all kicks off. The World Cup is in Atlanta. First game on June 15th as Spain, the European champions, take on Cabo Verde, the small nation of 10 islands off the west coast of Africa. So a really cool story there.
All right, Irish Exit's going to be the place to be if you're going from Charlotte to Atlanta for a World Cup, and thanks for sticking with us. No Irish goodbyes from you today, sir. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Nick. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah. All right, everybody, we will see you next Friday night on WCNC Plus on the pitch. See you then.